Welcome to Tabo Eminent Channel. On April 26, 2025, a devastating incident occurred in Vancouver, British Columbia, during the Lapu Lapu Day Festival, a celebration of Filipino heritage. At approximately 8:14 p.m. local time, a black Audi Q7 SUV drove into a crowd gathered on Fraser Street near East 41st Avenue, resulting in the deaths of 11 individuals and injuries to over 20 others. The victims ranged in age from 5 to 65 years old. The driver, identified as 30-year-old Vancouver resident Kaiji Adam Low, was apprehended at the scene by bystanders and subsequently taken into custody by police. Low has been charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder, with additional charges anticipated as the investigation continues. Thanks for watching. Request you to subscribe the channel. Authorities have stated that the attack is not being treated as terrorism but have noted Low's significant history of mental health issues and prior interactions with law enforcement. The Lapu Lapu Day Festival is an annual event that honors Datu Lapu Lapu, a Filipino hero known for resisting Spanish colonization. The festival holds particular significance for Vancouver's Filipino community, which numbers over 38,000 residents. In response to the tragedy, Prime Minister Mark Carney, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., and other international leaders have expressed their condolences. A vigil was held near the scene, and a 24-hour assistance center has been established to support victims and their families. The incident has prompted discussions about event security and mental health support systems in Canada. As the community mourns, investigations are ongoing to fully understand the circumstances leading to this tragic event. The Lapu Lapu Day Festival, held annually in Vancouver, honors the Filipino hero Datu Lapu Lapu, known for resisting Spanish colonization. This event holds deep cultural significance for Vancouver's Filipino community, which numbers over 38,000 strong. In the wake of the attack, the community has been left shattered. Vigils have been organized at the crash site, and a 24-hour support center has been opened to assist grieving families and survivors. World leaders, including Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney and Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., expressed their shock and condolences. Flowers, candles, and messages of solidarity now line Fraser Street, a somber reminder of lives lost during what should have been a joyous celebration. As investigations continue, the incident has sparked new conversations across Canada about the need for stronger mental health services and improved public safety measures at large community gatherings. What was supposed to be an evening of celebration turned into horror on April 26, 2025, when an SUV drove into a crowd at Vancouver's Lapu Lapu Day Festival. Families had gathered along Fraser Street, near East 41st Avenue, to celebrate Filipino pride, heritage, and resilience, honoring the legendary hero Datu Lapu Lapu. As music played and children danced in the street, a black Audi Q7 suddenly accelerated into the crowd without warning. Screams echoed across the festival grounds as people scrambled to escape. When the vehicle finally came to a halt, the devastation was overwhelming. 11 people were dead, including a 5-year-old child, and more than 20 others were injured, some critically. The driver, 30-year-old Kaiji Adam Low, was quickly subdued by bystanders and handed over to police. Authorities later confirmed he was facing 8 counts of second-degree murder, with additional charges expected. They ruled out terrorism as a motive but revealed that Low had a documented history of serious mental health challenges. While the investigation is ongoing, police are trying to piece together what led to such a senseless act of violence on a night meant for joy and community. For Vancouver's large Filipino community, over 38,000 strong, the attack feels like a deep wound. Lapu Lapu Day is not just a cultural event, it is a moment of pride and remembrance. That pride was replaced with shock, grief, and disbelief. Makeshift memorials of flowers, candles, and messages of love have sprung up along Fraser Street, a silent testament to the lives lost and the spirit of those who continue to grieve. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed the nation, calling the incident a tragedy that strikes at the heart of who we are as Canadians. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. also extended his condolences, promising support for the Filipino diaspora in Vancouver. A 24-hour crisis center has been set up for victims and their families, offering counseling and legal assistance. Meanwhile, across Canada, cities are reviewing their event security measures, and advocates are renewing calls for deeper investments in mental health care. As the community mourns, Vancouver stands united, not just in grief, but in resilience. Candlelight vigils continue to draw hundreds, where songs are sung, prayers are whispered, and the names of the victims are read aloud. In the face of unimaginable sorrow, Vancouver's Filipino community, and the city at large, have shown that even in darkness, solidarity and compassion can light the way forward. The tragedy that unfolded on April 26, 2025, in Vancouver's bustling Fraser Street district has left a permanent scar on the city's heart. The Lapu Lapu Day Festival, normally a vibrant showcase of Filipino music, food, and dance, turned into a nightmare in an instant. As twilight settled over the neighborhood, families lined the streets, children waved flags, and laughter filled the air. But the joyous atmosphere was shattered when a black Audi Q7 barreled through the crowd without warning. Witnesses described the horrific sound of screams mingling with the screech of tires, followed by an eerie, stunned silence. Among the 11 lives lost were grandparents, parents, and young children, a cross-section of generations who had gathered to celebrate their heritage. Over 20 others were rushed to nearby hospitals with injuries ranging from broken bones to life-threatening trauma. First responders, overwhelmed by the scale of the devastation, worked through the night, treating the wounded and comforting the grieving. Many survivors recounted how strangers held each other amid the chaos, offering what little comfort they could in those first harrowing moments. Police quickly arrested 30-year-old Kaiji Adam Lowe at the scene. Lowe, a resident of Vancouver, had a documented history of mental health struggles and prior encounters with law enforcement. Investigators were swift to clarify that they did not believe terrorism was involved, but the question of why this tragedy occurred still looms large. Lowe faces multiple charges of second-degree murder, and prosecutors are preparing to add more counts as they gather evidence. The incident has reignited public debate over Canada's mental health system and whether enough is being done to prevent individuals in crisis from slipping through the cracks. For Vancouver's Filipino community, the attack is especially painful. Lapu Lapu Day honors a hero who resisted colonial oppression, a symbol of strength and independence. To have such a celebration marred by senseless violence feels like an unimaginable betrayal of that spirit. Memorials now line the streets where the festival once bloomed with life. Flowers, candles, Filipino flags, and hand-drawn portraits of the victims turn the sidewalk into a sacred space of mourning. Every night since the attack, people have gathered there to pray, sing, and simply sit in silence together. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney visited the memorial personally, laying a wreath and speaking with victims' families. His message was clear: the victims would not be forgotten, and steps would be taken to honor their memory. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. also pledged support for the families and praised the courage of those who tried to help in the immediate aftermath. Community leaders have announced plans for a permanent memorial and a scholarship fund in the names of the victims, determined to create something lasting out of the sorrow. As the investigation continues, and as court proceedings begin against the driver, the city of Vancouver remains in mourning. But amid the grief, stories of resilience have also emerged: strangers pulling victims from harm's way, a nurse who rushed from a nearby cafe to tend to the injured, and volunteers who have kept vigils burning through the night. In the face of a tragedy that shook their world, Vancouverites are finding ways to stand together, refusing to let hate or despair define the future.